Did you listen to Jeff and Professor Hamo in the morning? Here's what you
In a
missed.
short while, I'll be speaking to 3 professors from Laikipia University. 3 coming to talk about a book that's just been released. It's called Fame, Force and Fury, the story of Fransis Atwoli. This being Labor Day, him being the main man at Uhuru Park today. Let's find out a little bit about this man. Fame, Force and Fury. You're gonna, a great title over there. You're gonna love the conversation with 3 professors, folks. It's gonna be very educational.
Well, we look at this character and we look at the Atwoli that is there today and who has evolved. Atwoli is a man who is acutely aware of his place in history, and he has carved up this kind of character. He's become acutely aware of being or famous, and then in that capacity he has tried to do that. He has tried to use several means that we can be able to at least point out. In that we can be able to see certain levels of force, and to a certain level to achieve his objectives, both politically and in the social arena, the aspect of fury. And therefore that is why we selected this theme.
The 3 Fs.
Exactly.
Professor Felicia.
Right.
And you know, he is a force in society, this man. Huh? I mean, the fact that he's just Secretary General of a trade union. He's not a politician, but he's still a powerful man. Why is that?
He is. I like his the way he uses his language. I like the fact that when he says something and he believes in it, he says it.
Without fear.
Without fear, without favor. This man is forceful. And this man says what he believes in. And I think he's right. I admire him.
Professor Nyango Gola, you've read this book.
Yes, indeed.
Your thoughts about it?
I think it is a very fascinating book because it traces the roots of Atwoli from his young age.
And very humble roots.
Very humble roots. And what is so fascinating about this book is that you see a man who has really struggled in life, but at the end of the day he has come at the top of it. This is a man who is so determined. He has overcome so many hurdles, and he has done very well. When you read this book, I think you really get to see an Atwoli who is Mr. Francis Atwoli in a very broad perspective, because we see somebody who has gone step by step, somebody who has faced challenges as a human being, but at the end of the day what's very fascinating is that he overcomes all these challenges.
Professor Chacha, when you think of trade union leaders, from Tom Mboya to Dennis Akumu, and now Francis Atwoli, you would think the next obvious step would be politics. And that has never come up.
Well, if you look at Tom Mboya, Dennis and so on, the Atwoli stands out to be a little bit different from the rest, because he has embraced different aspects of societal problems, including getting deeper into politics than any one of them. And he has been so bold to get into it, especially Kenyan politics, and of course trying even as a trade unionist, even trying to mobilize at ethnic level. You know, the Luya unity and so on and so forth. But again, in comparison with other past trade unionists, you can see that this man has been able to not only to have an influence within the country, but that has also transcended beyond the boundaries of this. If you look at the kind of positions that he holds at the moment, they are numerous.
The global ones.
Exactly. He has an office in Geneva, he has an office in Gambia, he has an office in Lagos and so many other places.
The question is, how come he never ran for governor, or how come he never ran for president? How come? Is that
I've
window still
interacted
open?
with him, and he completely thinks that he has achieved a lot within the KOTU
Yeah.
of the labor movement,
Right.
and it will look childish if he goes into politics. And he actually despises a lot.
Yes.
When you tell him that you want to be a governor,
It's
and
like
so on,
demoting him.
exactly, and he's actually demoting him, yeah, because he says that he has, where he is,
Yeah.
is in
That's
the highest
that's the
position.
pinnacle.
Exactly. Yeah.
What happens from there? It's retirement or it's a...
That's now the question.
Mm.
When you ask him, I have interacted with him
Yes.
several times. I ask him, what do you want to do next?
Yes.
And that's one of the most difficult questions that you can ever get.
I have asked him as well. Professor Felicia Yeke,
Right.
why is it important for us to write our stories? Why is it important?
I think it is important for us to write our stories because when we read such stories and we see humble beginnings, but somebody who is so determined, it encourages all of us who've never thought of writing to do so. And I can even talk about myself. I've always said I want to do a biography of myself, or is it autobiography
Yeah.
of myself?
Yeah.
And people tell me, go ahead, talk about yourself. I've not been able to do that. But when I read this, I said, you mean we can actually have my story for people to read and emulate and think that absolutely everybody around has got a story to say. And I think this story is larger than life for me. Yeah. So I think it's an encouraging thing that Atwoli's story is on and he's still alive. Because most of the times for historians, they do that after the person has gone.
Yeah, when they're long dead.
They are long dead.
Yes.
He is still alive.
Yeah.
And as Dr. Chacha says, he'll still ask him, what next? You know, when you're long dead, you can't ask somebody who's gone.
Yeah. Dr. Nyango Ogola, Atwoli has dominated the trade union scene for decades. For decades. Do you think he has prepared a successor before he exits the stage?
That's a very good question. According to me, the fact that he has been there for a very long time, naturally there's somebody who has been inspired by him. Because when you read this book, Atwoli started very humbly in the postal union.
Yeah.
Then he has risen through the ranks. And I think very interestingly is when he switched from the postal union to the Kenya Planters Workers Union. And that was a very tactful move. So according to me, succession is always a very good thing. I may not say for sure whether he has done this, but I want to affirm that the very fact that he has been this for a long time, there are very many people who have studied him. There are very many people who have seen how he has done. And I think as the longest serving Secretary General of KOTU, this giant KOTU, I'm sure he has had his wonderful imprint on the history of trade unions. And very interesting also, I think trade unions have always been inextricably linked to politics in Kenya. And I think right from the times of Mahan Singh through TJ Tom Boyer, the man who inspired Atwoli when he gave his famous talk in Atwoli's secondary school in Machakos, I think Atwoli has never shied away from politics. I think he ran for political office almost twice, losing in both occasions, but I think he lost with his head very high. I'm sure he has inspired very many people.
Sure.
So if there's anybody who has learned lessons, then I'm sure that is the success.
Yeah. Professor Chacha, page
just to
140.
add in addition to that,
Go ahead.
I think Atwoli, if you look at it, if you read the book, you see that Atwoli is actually a creation of Mugala. But of course, the moment Mugala gave him a very good atmosphere in which he could become a leader.
Correct.
But when he took over from Mugala, he said that he actually one phrase that I'm not Mugala. And therefore he wanted to be stand alone.
His own man.
Now today when you look at Atwoli and these other sub-branches of KOTU, the leadership of KPWA and others, you discover that he brings those leaders together, but he has never at one moment shown that he's preferring one of them to become the next or to succeed him.
Right.
But what he's trying to do is to see if any one of them can be able to emerge, and I think what he wants to avoid as much as possible is to pick on one of them.
Professor Felicia, they say a prophet is never recognized in his own home. Atwoli has often told me and many other people that when he goes to Geneva,
Right.
his office in Geneva, or when he lands in Geneva, he's treated like a head of state. When he walks the streets of Geneva, he's like a mini president. Not here.
Not here.
Yes. Is it true? I mean, that old adage, a prophet is never recognized.
I think you're so used to seeing him. The people do not look at him and bring out those very important factors. I don't know whether it is this outsider role or you are an insider, so you're complacent, you take for granted, he is the man. But you see, when you look from an outer perspective, you begin to see the little things that make him tick, the little things that he does to tick the world.
Yeah. Page 143, Professor Nyanga, he says, just like every human being, Atwoli has his own weaknesses. He is boisterous, self-centered, and belligerent. He is also very temperamental. He can tell you off in your face regardless of who you are. And he is often very impatient and impulsive. Especially when he's saying, Shenzi!
Yes, I think those are the views of these very able authors. And truly speaking, Atwoli is not the type of leader who takes it lying down. He's always very confident about what he wants. He never shies away from controversy. And if you look at his age, maybe, if I'm getting it right, at 71, in many African cultures, if you can't get bold at 71, then at 80 you may be too old to get bold. But this is what I want to say. The fact that he represents workers, according to me, this is a human rights issue. And at times, there's always some, the way the employers look at workers, and this is always, the zones of confluence are always very limited. And I think there are times when Atwoli gets furious, as the book says, because the workers are not being treated right. And, well, there are times when people say, if you are not confident, then nobody will follow you. This is a leader. He must show people that I'm ready to lead and you can follow me. In my own perspective, maybe, I don't think if he's too boisterous. The way I've read the book, this is also a man who is down to earth. Sometimes, with the ordinary workers, he's involved in a lot of charity. So maybe a few times, yes, he comes out very strong, but there are times when he's also, when you read the other side of him, I think there are times when he's...
Indeed, absolutely.
For me, I will say, let Atwoli be. And when I read that paragraph, actually, I marked it. Boisterous, self-centered, belligerent. And I went back and read the title. There it was from that. Fame, force, and fury. And you're reading through this and looking for that. For me, I'm a discourse analyst. I found that really nice. It is what you call, cataphoric. That you describe the person, Fransis Atwoli, fame, force, fury. You're looking for it. And I wanted to add something else. When I read this book, I thought it was good and authentic. Because here we have a man, he is still alive, but you're not afraid to bring out his strengths and weaknesses. This is a natural man. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Let Atwoli be.
Let Atwoli be.
I'll get to you in a moment, Professor Jaja. Tweets already coming in thick and fast. Gongu Kiari says, I like this man Atwoli. I can't wait to read this book. One thing I know, he cannot go for governor or presidency. At this level, these are village positions to him.
True.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Okay, Moses Kipngeti says, hi, Jeff, say hi to the professors. I've been doubting myself for long. What's a PhD? What's this? Keep doubting. Who would you encourage to read this book, Professor Chacha?
I think the book can be read by university students. It can be read by people in labor movements. And basically people who are interested in Kenyan history, they can. This book is very, very important. And also people who want to learn about politics and also leadership. This book covers very well the rise of evolution of Atwoli.
Yeah.
You can see as a very humble man, very quite humble, and then towards the end you can see a man coming up very bold and so on. So it shows very well about how people can be able to evolve in politics and kind of steps they can be able to follow, and the type of things that they need to do in politics. So it's very important for everybody else who is interested in Kenyan politics.
Professor Felicia, at the same time, these are going to be very difficult shoes to fill at Kotu once he exits the scene. Very big shoes to fill.
They are big shoes. But I think once you read this and you see how he has made the trade union be, I think he'll be leaving it with better structures, so that getting the next person is not going to be a maze. Yeah.
You agree?
I agree.
Yeah.
And then I wanted to say something.
Yes, yes.
When I read it, the language is simple. So apart from university students reading it, anybody who really wants to read the life history of somebody can pick it up and read, and you don't have to refer to any dictionary or what is this, explaining difficult words. It's pretty easy. And I'll tell you, I'm a discourse analyst. I am certainly going to use bits of this as excerpts to teach my students on textuality and how to do discourse analysis. I find it very promising.
Wow.
Yeah, and also the book has been written in a cocktail way that putting together academic, intellectual aspect, academic aspect, and of course in writing biographies.
Right.
So it's a blend between the two, so it can actually appeal to the academics and both people who are not in the academics. Yeah. It's actually, if you look at the normative way of doing a biography, this book goes a little bit more academic, and of course trying to put together some aspect of people who can be able to read widely.
Chogo Duncan is asking, where is this book accessible? Where can they buy this book?
I think it's Moran Publishers. Today, when they will be launched,
the official book launch is today.
It's going to be
Okay.
at the New Stanley.
Correct.
And after that, they think they'll be available in the bookshops.
So we're talking Textbook Center, we're talking
Center,
Prestige, we're talking everywhere.
Most of the textbooks, meaning bookshops,
Do we know the price?
should be 1,000 shillings.
Oh, that's not too bad.
Reasonable.
Very reasonable. 1,000 shillings.
Yeah.
You heard that, Chogo Duncan. It's 1,000 shillings. Will be available at all book centers and shops around the country after today's launch. I'm sure books are already on their way. Professor Nyangogola, what jumped at you? You've read this book, right? What's the one thing that jumped at you, apart from this man's humble beginnings?
This is when you read this book critically.
Yes.
It's a very inspiring book, extremely inspiring, because and I think this is one very interesting thing about biographies. When you read Mandela's No Easy Walk to Freedom,
Long Walk to Freedom, yeah.
You get a parallel of that in Atwoli's book, because this is not just a book about self-aggrandizement, and this is a book which has got a serious message to the Kenyan worker. This is a book which has got a serious message on the question of human rights, because working conditions and the well-being of a worker, according to me, is very much linked to the condition of a human being. And very interesting also, there are very small aspects when you have a keen eye for detail, which are very interesting. Atwoli is a very devout Christian. And he also...
In fact, he almost became a Catholic priest.
Yes.
Father Francis.
Yes. But never to be.
Yes.
And again, he has also never forgotten his Luya traditions. And he practices these Luya traditions in word and deed.
Yeah.
So very interesting. This is a book which is very inspiring. And I would want to urge anybody who would want to get hold of it. This is a book which has got a very serious message. This is a book which is inspiring. And this is a book which tells you that when you want to be a leader, you must have your focus on the ultimate goal.
Absolutely. Fame, force, and fury. But the tweets are still coming in very thick and very fast. George Jalango, he says, I love this phrase from Atwoli, Washenzi Hawa. But he also says he's an embodiment of soberness, maturity, boldness, and Iron Man. Viva Atwoli, George Jalango says. Viva. So the book, the launch is today, right?
We will be there.
Yes. Going forward, right? Does this man have anything else left in his... does he have any more bullets left in the chamber? Because after Kotu, after the trade unions, where does one go? Does one go to the glue factory? I mean, does he retire and...
Well, for Atwoli, what he's done, if you look at his steps for the last 5 years, he has tried to assume a certain role of advisory, like an elder.
Right.
He looks upon people. If you go to his home, of which sometimes I go, you see so many people coming there looking for advices and so on.
Yes.
And therefore, even in Kenyan politics, he's able to pinpoint certain aspects. Remember telling President Uhuru that, if you want to be peaceful, or if you want this country to be peaceful, please invite Raila.
Correct.
Talk to him.
Yes.
And so on.
And that's what happened.
Exactly. Everything he predicts
Comes to
a
pass.
reality. Yeah. And therefore, everybody is looking at him as, oh, can we get inspiration from this man? Can we get advice from this man? And therefore, I have a feeling that probably what he's going to do, his next move, is to assume that position. And
So you're saying watch this space?
Exactly.
I think so.
Huh?
Yeah.
You think so? Even at 71?
Oh, still young. Still young with the wisdom. Yeah.
The older the wine, the
Oh, really? Yeah. And he has never shown tiredness.
No, he hasn't.
Even at 71.
And look at a day like today. He'll be there throughout,
Throughout.
saying doing what he does, and then he hits the road, and this man has boundless energy.
Yes.
If someone has never heard of Atwoli, right? And they pass by the airport, you know how the airport is, and you say, hey, fame, force, and fury. What's the one takeaway you would want them to get?
I think
Stranger, we're talking a stranger, has never heard of Atwoli, and he sees this book at the airport. He says, I think I'm going to pick this up. What's it about?
this is a book which talks about, as we have said, a very iconic personality in Kenya, a history-making trade unionist, because as far as I can recall, this is the longest-serving Secretary General of Kotu. And according to me, history is not made by chance.
No.
This is history which has been made by a person who has designed it. There is no chance here.
Duncan Ware is asking, and anyone of you can answer this, very good point. Atwoli has achieved almost everything. I think the only thing he has not achieved is putting the Luya nation, Luya politics in one basket, uniting the Luya nation. Comment.
I'll quickly comment on that.
The professors are stumped.
When you look at the Luya history, we are talking about 17 sub-tribes, or 19, according to the factors which you are using.
Yeah.
And the first thing I want to comment on is whether this unity is it for progressive reasons, or is it just for self-serving reasons?
Now you're going to get into whole professorial speech, aren't you?
And according to me, the fact that the Luyas are heterogeneous, the fact that some of the dialects are almost mutually unintelligible, then that means sometimes the idea of the Luya unity may be sometimes a mirage. There have been even experiments to standardize the Luya language. Tibet tried that. There's somebody who tried that in 1948. It never worked. So I think sometimes unity in diversity could be a very good thing. But if the unity comes, that homogeneous unity, maybe I don't see it coming very soon.
Jeff, I think the most difficult community to unite is the Luya.
Why is that?
And the reason is, if you want to understand this, is that the Luya politics is informed from below. It's what we call high politics, and deep politics, and low politics. Low politics is what goes on at the village level, what the real politics, what the peasants, that's the actual what's happening in Western Kenya. High politics is the Luya leaders in Nairobi who can meet, they unite. It's so easy for them to unite. But then,
Down
deep
on
politics
the ground, yes.
is what Atwoli is trying to play. To try to see it's not easy to bring the low and high politics
Together.
by engaging in deep
But I like
politics.
that point, 17 or 19 sub-tribes.
Yeah,
That also adds to it.
Unintelligible. They're like different languages.
Correct. Shogo Duncan, he says, I am an English teacher and also a literature teacher. Can I recommend this to my students?
Certainly, yes.
You wouldn't say no, would you?
The language is good.
Yeah.
The language is very easy.
Simple, yeah.
If you look at what you call textuality, it has followed all those standards. Actually, somebody is waiting to buy this book
From you.
once it is launched, so that he will use it for comprehension
Oh, wow.
for his Form 4 students.
Oh, wow.
Particularly the forward by the president.
Ah, yes.
Yes. So
it's good to mention
recommend
that.
it.
The president wrote the foreword, huh?
Right.
That's right.
And the
Okay.
blurb.
And the blurb. Oh, fantastic. Nyar Gero says, Fame, Force, Fury. That's a very catchy title.
Right.
Triple F. All right, as we wind up,
Yeah.
I'd like each of you to tell me what Atwoli's legacy will be. Starting with you, Professor Nyango. His legacy.
Okay, I think I'll be very brief. Atwoli has already made his legacy. He has made a legacy of being a crusader for the workers. He has made a legacy for being honest. And to the best of my knowledge, I've never seen him seriously muddled in things which can undo that legacy.
Wonderful. Professor Felicia, his legacy.
I would agree with my friend Professor. The history of the trade union cannot be talked about without Atwoli, number one. Number two, the fact that this is a man who can dine with the lowest and dine with the highest and be able to do a mix. I think this is very important. Yes.
Wonderful. Well put. Professor Chacha, co-author of Fame, Force and Fury. Atwoli's legacy.
Yeah, actually the legacy, probably that one that cannot be seen by many, is the kind of acts of kindness that this man has. You know, how people use their wealth is quite rich. But then when you look at many people who have been able to be successful in life, he has been able to share his wealth. If you actually go to his home, wherever in Nakuru, Busia, or in Nairobi, you find so many people there. He's educating more than 15 university students, so many secondary school students, and they come to him to get school fees.
Yeah. So despite all that bling, the gold and the
that is a political signature. every person has to be identified in certain
Yes.
things.
Right.
but deep down inside, he's a generous man. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Very generous. Yeah.
Wow. Professor Nyango Gola, Professor Felicia Yeke, Professor Chacha, thank you so much, all of you, for being here today. And congratulations on the book. It'll be available at every bookshop from tomorrow because the launch is today. Pick it up. Fame, Force, Fury, the story of Fransis Atwoli. Thank you all and happy Labor Day to you all.
Thank you very much.
Candidate interviews.
Oh, you
with
had this
decision.
Unge and Professor Hemo every day, Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. only on Hot 96.